Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. So here, kind of continuing the series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and I got a real fun video for you today because recently all of the Neo Geo CD core functionality in that beta core has been folded into the main Neo Geo core, giving you two systems on one single button press. And if you know anything about me or the channel, I absolutely love Neo Geo and I collect for it and have a ton of games, but seeing the progress that the Neo Geo CD core has made and knowing how much you can play on the MiSTer for Neo Geo, which is absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorite cores, and it's a little sad this is probably the last time I will talk about it because honestly there's not much left to do on MiSTer for Neo Geo. We have basically everything that you could ever want and some things that you probably don't even want. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But whether you want to play Neo Geo CD, Neo Geo, or both, this is awesome as far as the core is concerned and is extremely easy to get set up now that it is in Update All. If you haven't run Update All recently, you're going to have to go ahead and do that. And as long as you have the BIOS getter enabled, it's going to bring down all of the BIOS files for the Unibios, CD, AES, and MVS, and everything else you need. Right off the top, the 4x CD loading speed is one of the best new improvements to this core, and I love that it's been folded into the main Neo Geo core. You'll see here Metal Slug 2 side by side. I showed in a video probably back in April. The speed increases are absolutely insane. It is so much faster, and it eliminates one of the biggest complaints people have about the Neo Geo CD and even the Neo Geo CDZ, which is the loading times. This is in real time right now on 4x speed with Samurai Showdown 3, and you'll see as soon as I pick my character and actually starts to load, this is extremely fast. It's real time. I'm talking through it, and before you know it, you're going to be right into the game. This is such an improvement, and it brings it close to par with the AES and MVS. Obviously, any loading is going to be slower than a cartridge, but it doesn't really fundamentally make that big of a difference anymore. And in some games with the arranged soundtrack, you may very well want to play the Neo Geo CD version. I'll go through all of the different region settings in just a moment, and as well as the cheats, because if you've never used these before or you've never touched the Unibios, it can be a little bit confusing to a newcomer. But again, getting these games on MiSTer, absolutely spectacular. Neo Geo hardware, Neo Geo CD games, and especially Neo Geo AES games are definitely not being given away. It's just one of those things. But again, even in between rounds, when you already have one character loaded into RAM and you're just bringing another character up, look how fast this flies by. It's basically like 4 seconds and we're right back into the game. Obviously that's 4 seconds more than you deal with on the AES version, but arranged soundtracks in certain games are going to make those 4 seconds absolutely worth it. Now I do want you to be aware of one thing that'll probably trip a few people up as far as using this core is concerned. That 4x CD mode works for almost all of the games that I've encountered, but you will see from time to time an error, and that is because not every single game and the way it's coded is going to work for that. Trying to bring up Pulsar on the 4x mode, and I did check with a few other people, they've had the same issue. You're going to see this error and exception handling pop up right now. It's just not going to load on 4x, but the good thing is Pulsar doesn't even have that many loads. If for any reason you start seeing these errors when you try to launch a game, go from 4x back to 2x and reset the core. This 100 out of 100 times that I've tried, in reality it's like 6 out of 6 times I've tried, 100% get you back into the game and playing. So just be aware the 4x loading is a hack. There was no Neo Geo CD that ever had a 4-speed CD-ROM drive, so there are going to be errors now and again. It's not a problem with the core, it's just an implementation and how the code for the games actually speaks to the hardware. But again, whether you play the AES, the MVS, or the Neo Geo CD version of Pulsar, if you've never played this game before, you 100% owe it to yourself to do so. And don't forget, if you hit start and select at the same time on Neo Geo CD, AES, or MVS, you can bring up the Unibios menu and cheat. The only reason I'm doing that is I wanted to come later into the game and I don't have any power-ups, basically an impossible situation. But listen to the CD quality music on Pulsar here, it is spectacular, and I'll be right back. Just sounds incredible, but let's go over some of the options for both AES, MVS, and CD, because I know a lot of you people have not yet used this core or might not be aware of how it works for CD. On the BIOS side for AES and MVS, you have Unibios or Original. Just leave this as Unibios, you're always going to be using it. You can switch over to an MVS system type, but you can override that within the Unibios, and that's the standard issue way to do things. You will see we can also save the memory card there, it is enabled by default. Now down in the CD menu we have CD and CDZ. You're going to have your speed type 1 through 4. Definitely play around with that. I leave it at 4 until I find a game that doesn't work. And the Neo Geo CD does have regions, and that's going to change language, so you can switch from US to Europe to Japan from there. But I just love this core now. Not only can you play Neo Geo CD games on it, we can just load up a Neo Geo ROM and start playing something like Melee. But again, if you've never used the Unibios, all you do is hit start and select at the same time, and if you soft reboot the system while holding down A, B, and C, and when you do your controller binds, it will give you an option to have one button act as this, you can go in and change your region as well as the arcade versus home or AES versus MVS mode. And don't forget, there's a big difference in some games with the region. Melee in Japan is going to have an absolutely spectacular soundtrack filled with hilarious songs. Melee in the US or Europe is going to have a completely different soundtrack, and while it is not bad, it takes all of the character out of the game. So do be aware that you want to play around with region settings pretty much all the time, and most AES games are going to default to giving you 4 to 5 credits to beat the game. If you want unlimited credits, just move over to MVS mode, where you can even unlock unlimited credits in the Unibios cheat section, more than one way to skin that Melee cat. But it's so much fun to see the differences in games and play around with them. Right now we have the Last Blade, obviously running on the Neo Geo CD portion of the core, because you see loading times, but again at 4x, these are just blowing by so much faster than they ever did. Everything is smooth, everything is responsive, everything is exactly as you would expect the Last Blade to be on the Neo Geo CD. But you want to compare it and contrast? Just go ahead and load up the AES version. I don't even know if you could tell a difference in this capture if I didn't just tell you that I switched from CD to AES mode. It really is that great. And don't forget, there are some other options within the Unibios menu for that regionality. If you're just getting into Neo Geo, it can be a little bit of a minefield to understand what the Unibios does and why it's important. But take something like King of Fighters 2002 here. This is the US version if you want the US story, and I do own the US AES cartridge for this. If you go to the cheat database, you're going to see Enable Bouncy Mai. It's a very big meme within the AES community, and you will see that suddenly Mai is going to get a little bit more bouncy as that takes effect. If you wanted Bouncy Mai, you'd have to play the Japanese version, but now with cheats, it's going to be available to you. Whether or not you think it should be there, it's totally up to you. But again, it's incredible just to have all of this at once on MiSTer. AES, MVS, Neo Geo CD hardware is not cheap, and AES games are an absolute metric crap ton in money if you want to actually collect and buy them. We're talking, in some instances, home mortgage payments, in some instances, the price of a new mid-size family car. It gets absolutely insane, and trust me, I do not buy those mid-size car games. Everything I have, I've had for a very long time. But it's so much fun to be able to have all of this in one spot, and for Update All basically to take care of absolutely everything for you. And don't forget, the Neo Geo CD does have some awesome exclusives that you definitely want to check out with some great CD soundtracks. One more taste of the music, and I'll be right back. Just sounds so good, and that's what we want to see. I just can't believe that we've been talking about Neo Geo on this channel for over 3 years now, from the original AES core moving over to all of these betas for the Neo Geo CD. It is basically done, and there's so much fun to be had. If you didn't grow up playing Neo Geo games, if you didn't start collecting a long time ago like I did, it might be your first introduction to the system. And the most recent update even added some support for some games that came later, fan projects like V-Liner here. I don't know if you want to play a slot machine on the MiSTer with the AES or MVS core, but you can 100% do it now, and there's so many strange, diverse titles within the Neo Geo universe. You're definitely going to find something to absolutely love, whether it's the AES or the MVS. We basically have everything Neo Geo you could possibly want with the Pocket Core coming very shortly. The only thing that we probably will never get is going to be the Hyper Neo Geo, but in a very big dream world, I hope one day we can play it. And again, if someone really wants to take a crack at this, and I trust they can do it, I will find you a Neo Geo Hyperboard to go ahead and reverse engineer. But that is the status of the Neo Geo core. AES, MVS, CD, 4X loading, Unibios on every single system. This is the most perfect Neo Geo system you're ever going to encounter. It's a hell of a lot easier than owning all the stuff you see in front of you, and while I love those AES cards on the shelf, I understand not many people want to drop the money at current values to collect them. MiSTer is 100% the way to go. If you have any questions, leave me down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week for more MiSTer. Bye bye.